pink. Not the singer, not the clothing line, the color, pink. Each third Sunday of Advent, the church invites pink, and it gives us scriptures filled with expectation, hope, and it invites a certain amount of joy, which brings us to our question, how is your joy these days? And how is your joy these days? There is no right answer, no wrong answer. It's a myth that this time of year everyone should be happy, right? And you shouldn't be sad. Wrong. Now, if you're enjoying and loving these days, great. Savor them. There's always much to be grateful for, no matter what life throws at us. Yet, a lot of folks at this time of year carry sadness, sometimes great heartache. And it seems worse by this thought that everybody else out there is having some great season. Here I am, like dying on the inside. What's wrong with me? Nothing. Everybody suffers sometimes. And for many, the holidays intensify that. So where do we find joy? It's an important question, but before we dig in, please let me offer this one caveat. There's a lot of anger these days, obviously. Some people are even quite mean. I have been the recipient, as perhaps you have these days, of some moments of great negativity. What I remind myself is, no one can take away my dignity and no one can take away my joy. I can give them away, but no one can take them from me. I mean, people can make life really hard, but in the end, no one can take away my dignity or joy. So let's not give those away. So, where do we find joy? To help us answer that, researchers at the world-famous think tank called the Your Pastor is Crazy Institute have come up with an amazing invention called the Joy-O-Meter. Now we're still, well, you'll laugh, we'll see. We're still working out a few kinks on it, but it is a device which helps indicate what is a likely source of joy. It shines brightly when that's something that really would give joy. Now, since quite honestly, most of our joy or lack thereof comes from how we frame things, how we think about life, let's look first at a few attitudes, a few ways of thinking, often unconscious in us at this time of year, and see what the Joy-O-Meter says about that. Number one, the first attitude is more is better. The more is better, it's a very common type of unconscious thinking this time of year, right? We need more stuff, more schedule, more decorations, more rushing, more. Actually, usually, less is better. You know, little less alcohol, a little less food, a little less schedule, less presents, less running, less TV, less noise, less stuff. I'm not saying those are bad, but it's just that we often don't even savor what is already a part of our lives. And that more is better compulsion does not really lead to joy. We would often, I would suggest, do better to spend more time talking seriously with one another, savoring each other's presence, and less on buying each other stuff. So anyway, that's attitude number one. Let's try number two. Unconscious, common. If I hurry up and get everything done. Then I can enjoy Christmas. You know, in reality, many of us miss the profound gift of Christmas because we are always getting ready for the next thing and not savoring the moments along the way. We're not awake while we're doing them. We just sleepwalk through these days. As someone looking back on his life once told me, and I quote, "My biggest regret in life in my older age was being in a hurry. Too often I was getting to the next thing without fully entering into the thing right in front of me. I cannot think of a single advantage I've ever gained from being in a hurry, but I can think of 1,000 things I missed. I thought I was making up time, but instead I was throwing it away." Now, I know there's a certain level of satisfaction of, getting some stuff done. It feels good, I get it. But if you and I aren't careful, we push so hard through these days trying to get there that once we get there, we don't even know how to be there because we're already going to the next thing. We have to learn to be awake to the here and the now. And when you were to ask me, where is God to be found? When is God to be found? Only, always in the here and in the now. All right? How about, let's just do one more, see what the joy-o-meter says about this. For Christmas, I would do well to think about more than my own household. We can be tempted to make our Christmases too small, right? I just got to take care of my own family. Yeah, good to do that. But if we exclude an awareness of the suffering of our sisters and brothers who are grieving, who are refugees fleeing for their lives, who are victims of violence or racism or starvation, are we not aware of what's happening to this climate and this whole world? Something in us will never know the fullness of the joy that is offered as we take on the bigger heart that Christ had, who chose to enter into the fullness of it, for whom each person matters. The great truth is that we are in it together. We are. So, those are a few attitudes. Now we're going to talk about two actions, both suggested by our gospel. First, here's John the Baptist, this kind of wild man out in the desert. And people started coming to him and saying, "John, what is ours to do?" You see, that's number one. Asking that question, that willingness to do what is needed for love, there is joy. I think you know it. But when we're ready and available to do what is needed for love in the moment, this bit of kindness, this helping out, right? Because that is number two, John's answer. The way I would summarize it is, he said to everybody, just do the next right thing. Act with integrity. Act with kindness. There is how you will find joy along the way. So, there it is. There are ways of thinking that will open us to know the joy that is available. There are ways of acting that will as well. If I had time, maybe I'd patent the soon-to-be world-famous joy-o-meter. I've got a few exciting projects. I'm sure it would help fund them. At least that's what they told me at the Your Pastor is Crazy Institute. But back to the question. For many, these days are tough. For a good number, these days are kind of exciting and fun. For most of us, we're somewhere in between. But for each of us, there is joy to be found, but only if we think rightly and only if we act with integrity and kindness.